I would literally rather saw off my own foot than support Israel ever again, by the way. Never supporting that demonic nation ever again. That's like, I am so off that train. It's crazy.
Candace Owens recently went on a tirade against Israel, explaining why she'll never support Israel ever again, considering it a mistake that she did so in the past. She also gets into topics like why Israel coverage in the news is so one-sided, and why some conservatives are finally opening their eyes about these issues related to Israel for the first time. Candace is one of the most notable figures on the right that has questioned and condemned aid to Israel recently, so let's get her take on this. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Zionists, these ultra-Zionists who have been so masked down in their evil, recognizing that they have lost the quote-unquote PR war. Not that this is a PR war. Nobody's like fighting, having to lie or smear or getting attention by the media to say that what's happening in Gaza is wrong. But you've been seeing this occurrence of like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? So many people dislike Israel. And a perfect example of that is Bill Ackman, who tweeted this. He tweeted, "True, the PR war is as important a war as the war on the ground. A media or social media lie that is not immediately rebutted with the facts becomes the truth, regardless of its falsity. Israel has repeatedly failed to tell its side of the story, and this has caused serious harm to Israel and Jews around the world. Netanyahu, you need to fix this now." Now, to be clear, he's replying to, I'm assuming he's replying in the context of something that may have been false that was published about Israel. But him trying to connect this to a broader point that, oh, this is why we're losing because we've got to debunk lies more quickly. No, that's not why you're losing. You're losing because you're up against the truth, okay? The problem that Zionists are having, the broader issue that you guys are having, is that you are defending evil. You are behaving like psychopaths, and it's caught up. Like, you're going around demanding people lose their jobs. You are pretending that people are not starving in Gaza. You are outright mocking at points, Zionists like Randy Fine in Congress, images of children that are starving, saying that they deserve that. And you can only behave like a sadistic, psychopathic, murderous individual for so long before the world takes notice. I think, again, this is just the way I'm reading the situation.
Yeah, I think she's 100% right. And the most outrageous part of Ackman's statement in that tweet, by the way, was when he said Israel has failed to tell the world its side of the story. Just think about that as an American to hear that. No, that's the only side of the story that the mainstream puts into the ether in the United States and in America is the Israel side of the story. How many times have we all been told that Israel has a right to defend itself? And, you know, this genocide is a result of Israel just defending itself against innocent babies and people getting in aid lines and being mowed down by the IDF. How many times have we heard, you know, Iran wants to wipe Israel off the map? Or if Arab nations laid down all their arms, Israel would be at peace. But if Israel laid down its arms, then there wouldn't be peace and it would be overtaken by the Arab nations surrounding it. All this propaganda comes out and it's only in one direction. We are inundated with this as Americans. We're inundated with Israel's side of the story. It takes the dissident media and independent media and people reporting from the ground to actually show the other side. The truth is, we haven't heard the Palestinian side of this because the AIPAC lobby, the Israel lobby, controls so many of our politicians, so much influence in the news media, etc. So that statement's crazy, and I'm with Candace totally. They're up against a truth, and that's their problem. It's not the problem of not getting your side out because we've been propagandized to support your side our entire lives. The neocons did it, the establishment Democrats did it, and Trump does it.
But I think the world has taken notice that there's something fundamentally wrong with Zionism because it requires so many lies, so much hideous reinterpretation. The media that you guys have, you've had the support of the Western media, certainly in America,
right.
Zionist enterprise, writing all of these articles, ignoring the deaths, ignoring what's happening in Gaza until this very point where it's gotten so bad they can't ignore it anymore. And you go, I don't understand why people don't like Israel. I don't understand why people are hating Israel. This is why. You guys have gone full mask down for the last 2 years. And it takes a special kind of sadistic, murderous mind to continually defend this and go, but what about October 7th?
Right.
You're behaving like psychopaths, truly like psychopaths. You're just not aware of yourself. And it's just not normal.
Yeah, this is entirely true. They've doubled down to try to justify these atrocities in Gaza. You see former Israeli members of the legislature like Moshe Feiglin come out and say every child in Gaza is the enemy. You have people in America that are sick and sadistic like Randy Fine, who she just named, that go on Twitter and respond to a photo of a child, dead child being pulled up from the rubble and says, I sleep soundly. Thank you very much, when asked about how he slept when he saw that. Very well, he said. Brian Mass saying there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian. That is the common discourse among the U.S. populace and the U.S. elected representatives toward this issue. And, we're saying it's enough is enough. Dissidents on the right and dissidents on the left are joining forces to point out how absurd this is, while Trump tries to plead with the Knesset, drop all charges against the architect of this genocide, Netanyahu, who, by the way, violated the ceasefire that Trump himself orchestrated the day before he stepped into the White House his second term. If the U.S. wanted to have it, it has incredible leverage over Israel. It could just withhold funding unless they stop that genocide, but it won't because of AIPAC's influence. So Candace is right.
These headlines are just not normal. And we can go over some of these right now. I mean, you now have the patriarchs and the heads of the churches in Jerusalem who are issuing statements about what's happening. The settlers, the absolute gremlins and goblins who go in and are taking over territory. Nope, not paying for it, not by just taking over people's territory, burning their crops, killing their animals, killing their livestock to make it so that it's unlivable. And just going, we're going to take it, it's ours. Gremlins, goblins, literally, that's what you are. When you see these people, they are just the most despicable, debased individuals you could ever imagine.
Yeah, all in the name of Greater Israel, the Greater Israel Project, the project in which there isn't Palestinians anymore, the expansion of the West Bank settlements in Syria and Lebanon, and a complete just destruction of a people. This is a genocide. It's why they're talking about relocation and transfer and setting up a concentration zone in Rafah. Don't believe me? Look at Minister Katz's statement about that. He's said that there will be concentration zone there in Rafah. And, the similarities to the Holocaust are just unavoidable at this point. I'm sorry. If you want to talk numbers and things like that, that's fine in the differences. But guess what? This is a systematic annihilation of a people, and it can't go on. And Candace is pointing this out rightly.
And to do this under the context of Holy Land, like, we are chosen by whom? Satan? That's the only thing that makes sense. You have to be chosen by Satan to be doing what you're doing. And then to look at us and go, we're the victims. We're the victim. Didn't you see what happened October 7th when, conveniently Netanyahu ignored everything that was happening at the border as if he knew it was going to happen?
Yeah, even mainstream news media printed that they were aware of an October 7th-like attack 1 year prior to October 7th. The Times of Israel printed that. I believe several major news articles in the United States printed that. So this was a total security failure on the part of the Israeli government, and the Israeli government is completely criminal. It's not everyone living in Israel, just like everyone in the United States isn't criminal because of our own criminal government. It's a criminal enterprise that is just completely going beyond all the bounds of decency and morality to consummate a genocide in Gaza.
And yeah, conveniently, we killed a lot of our own people, but then we just went to the press and said, oh my gosh, look what happened to us. It's just like the Holocaust. And then we just committed a Holocaust. Yeah. More headlines. Baby dies following a cesarean delivery after a mother is killed in an Israeli airstrike. Yes, it's about a newborn baby who died. They tried to rescue his baby via cesarean, and now that baby has died. And you guys look at us and you go, why aren't you supporting Israel? I would literally rather saw off my own foot than support Israel ever again, by the way. Never supporting that demonic nation ever again. That's I am so off that train. It's crazy. I've learned way too much. And you guys really have done the best PR. I'm glad that you guys, I'm glad that you're chasing down college protesters, that you're trying to pass speech laws, that you have people like Randy Fine who are laughing at death and starvation, because you ran the most effective PR campaign that you could have run for what that nation is.
Yeah, amen. Man, she is really laying into it here, and I have to applaud her for her courage being someone on the right saying this. Imagine this. Imagine someone on the right, one of the most prominent influencers in the world, saying this 20 years ago. You just wouldn't have seen it. Only Pat Buchanan and Ron Paul talked about this in political circles on the right back then, but Candace is laying it out in front, and she is totally right here. October 7th is not an excuse for mass annihilation of a people. I'm sorry. Hamas isn't even flinging rockets from Gaza into Israel anymore. It hasn't since April. It's a defeated force. It's a defeated people. And yeah, I don't think they'll ever make Hamas completely go away, because for every Palestinian that died, they had brothers or uncles or fathers that are going to carry out vengeance against Israel because of these atrocities. And even when Gaza was, before October 7th, the Gazans were not overwhelmingly supportive of Hamas. People said that. The propaganda is that because Gazans voted for Hamas 22 years ago, when currently the population is half minors, and many of that population that did exist and voted for them in 2005 wasn't of age to do that or didn't do that. And you're just going to say, hey, they deserve it because they voted for Hamas. Well, would the U.S. deserve atrocities if your presidential opponent got voted for by the remainder of Americans? I don't think so. I don't think you could make that excuse whether Biden got elected or Trump got elected. And guess what? The U.S. and Israel are the biggest terrorist entities in the world when it comes to atrocities of this kind projected onto other people.
You won, I would say. You delivered in every way that you are supposed to deliver by just going full mask down. You often hear this word inhumane, right? They don't dehumanize. You dehumanized yourself. You proved that you have to not be a human to look at what is going on in Gaza and to try to spin it as necessary, as a necessary response to October 7th. That takes somebody that is something other than human to keep doing that. And that's what you've done, and that's what you're being, and I will never be able to unsee that like the rest of the world. That's why I say it's incumbent upon us now. These are our kids that are growing up. You may have been able to do it with Robert Maxwell's textbooks, raise generation people to think like I did. Oh my gosh, we have to make sure that a Holocaust never happens. We have to support Israel. Nope. Now we are reading the books. We're learning about how you've executed this. You've blindfolded the entire world to what you are. And what I think you might be is possessed by a real demon.
Yeah, man, I can't disagree with her at all. And she's right. October 7th, again, it can't be the perpetual excuse that's used for mass annihilation forever. And that's essentially what it is. And Candace has kind of a unique perspective here, and I'll give her credit for it, because she actually thinks it's good that this is such a PR blunder. And that's to take away, obviously, outside of the concern of people dying as a result of it. Obviously, that's the worst part of it, people dying in mass numbers. But these mask-off moments also provide an outlet for more people to be awakened to the evils, the truth behind these evils, and maybe a new generation of people that will not only question, but push back against U.S. support for Israel. Because I don't see a political, endgame for this to happen without a cultural shift. And the cultural shift you are seeing that come into be in the United States with some conservatives, dissident, leftists that have always been good on this issue coming together in opposition to this, rightly so. And it's one of those things like maybe the COVID regime or, the war on terror, the Patriot Act, that will really awaken a lot of people to these things. And then if you buy into Breitbart statements like I do, that politics is downstream from culture, maybe we will have a different posture toward Israel in the future.
I'm Catholic. I believe in demons. And Netanyahu is very clearly a demon. And any person that supports him, you are a part of a totally demonic enterprise. And we're never going to be able to unsee that, okay? Another headline for you. A worst case scenario of famine is unfolding in Gaza. Yeah, we're aware. We've been aware of that for a long time. You tried to ignore that. Oh, it didn't happen. No, Hamas is stealing. Hamas, ISIS, all of these people are just so conveniently, these terror groups are so convenient in helping Israel expand its borders. We know that now. We're aware of these operations that you're running and constantly blaming it on Muslims, radical Muslims, that you're funding always, right? You just always happen to be funding, Israel happens to be funding these groups. We're aware of what you're doing in Armenia. You're killing Christians. You've always been killing Christians. And you've always been pointing the finger at Muslims. So everyone's awake to that now. You got a little bit more than a PR problem, Bill Ackman.
Yeah, exactly right. And people saw a lot of it not only in Gaza, that's the biggest of all the atrocities, but also in the war with Iran, where Netanyahu acted opportunistically to draw Trump's attention away from normalizing relations with Iran through a new JCPOA-like agreement that would bring in a new inspections regime, to shelve that just in favor of the war machine. Of war. Of strikes, of striking Iran for specious reasons, by the way, when the intelligence community, both in the United States and Israel, said that they don't have a nuclear weapon. Of course, Netanyahu said they're inches away from that, days, seconds, milliseconds away my entire lifetime. But now they've shown what they're willing to do with Israel, and Iran might just acquire nukes. I would, looking at the situation in North Korea, when it's not like that regime change is on the table there now.
Okay. You have the PR solution, which is that you won. We know what you are. We see what you are. So what are you going to do now? Kill us all? That's kind of the broader question that I think you guys are going to have to ask yourselves. Pass more speech laws in America, pull the Brigitte, start suing people, demand that they're fired. The last thing is like, well, we control the courts. So we're just going to make all of you guys suffer, and we're just going to bankrupt you all. Yeah, we'll see about that. But I wanted to help you put two and two together of what's going on. And it's that you are what's going on. We can see you and we can see your behavior. And that is the leading cause for the sentiment, the worldwide sentiment that is against Israel.
Yeah, they're up against a truth, like she just said in the beginning of this video, certainly so.
At this moment. Special shout out, by the way, to all the Jewish people. There's one person that I follow who makes hilarious videos, who did this whole series on Instagram, basically saying, like, when I was a kid, I always wondered why it was that we were told to visit Israel as a birthright. And now I see that this was always propaganda to make even Jewish Americans believe that we have to support this demonic nation. And yeah, that you should have recognized that when the ADL, Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL, was caught on a hot mic saying that. Like, we got to do what we did. We're losing a generation. We've got to do something like we did with Birthright. Yeah, that was a propaganda for Jewish Americans to tether you to an identity so that you couldn't see that you have nothing to do with this utterly demonic nation that's in the Middle East that no one should support. No person outside of Satan. Like, if you're Satan, sure, I think you should probably support them. But if you're not Satan, you probably shouldn't. So that's all I want to say about that.
Yeah, well said, and shout out to all the Jewish anti-Israel dissidents that watch my program as well. I know there are a lot of them, and let's face it, some of the best critics of Israel, in my mind at least, are Jewish, and that's the biggest irony here. There's people like Norm Finkelstein and Glenn Greenwald and Aaron Mattei and Max Blumenthal and Jeff Sachs and Dave Smith. The list is virtually endless, and that is really telling when it comes to people being willing to stick their necks out there at the risk of being called, self-hating Jews or anti-Semitic when you're a Jew. They'll call anyone anti-Semitic for having these sensibilities for sure. But it is striking to see the number of Jewish people standing out against this stuff. And I really appreciate that. And she's totally right. The mask is totally off in how people are responding to this, not only in terms of foreign policy justifications, lying about it, saying it's all about October 7th, despite the fact that this response isn't even remotely proportional. This is a massacre. This is not a response to that terrorist attack. And Israel has killed tens of, times more people than Hamas ever killed in October 7th. I think, it's in the realm of like 60 to 100,000 people killed by Israel, with maybe 150,000 people missing. It's hard to even quantify that, and a large portion of the missing might be dead. So yeah, you're in a situation here where this is a complete blunder. The world opinion has turned hard against Israel, harder than it's ever been. And it's all because of this response, which Netanyahu has orchestrated and Zionists in the United States have doubled down on. And that's what we get out of this whole thing. You heard it from Candace. They're doing everything they can to call people anti-Semitic if they actually tend to bring this up. Marjorie Taylor Greene just recently called it a genocide, making her the first Republican in Congress to do so. Thank you, Marjorie Taylor Greene, for telling the truth when many of your colleagues won't do that. And they're trying to adjust hate speech laws to only, basically serve the interests of pro-Israel zealots who want to conflate, anti-Israel sensibilities with anti-Semitism. And that's just stupid. Anyone can tell that you're not innately anti-Semitic for criticizing Israel, just as you wouldn't be anti-German for criticizing the German government, which isn't even representative of all German people. So that's what you're seeing here. Candace is totally right. We shouldn't support Israel. U.S. should take all of its resources out of the Middle East to any country, including Israel. A lot of our forces ostensibly there to support Saudi Arabia in the blockade of Yemen. And it's been doing that for over a decade, but mostly it's Israel and Israel's wars, Israel's ambitions in the region for a greater Israel. It's supporting the clean break strategy that broke from the Oslo Accords, which would have ushered in a more peaceful future. We're seeing the worst of all worlds there. So withdraw the forces, withdraw the aid, bring the soldiers back home, do the right thing. That's real America first. But I do want to hear from you. Let me know down below. Do you think Candace Owens is right? Would you ever support Israel in any regard ever again? And is she right about the tactics that Israel's biggest supporters are using to try to demonize the opposition? Let me know in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Candace also. Really appreciated this segment on her show. And please consider becoming a YouTube member. If you click the join button below, you will support the channel, and I really appreciate that. And in return, I'll give you access to all my videos before they go live to the general public on YouTube. And until I see you guys again, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.